Expo, Dream Legacy Foundation, GBKM, as well as the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce and the Ontario Alliance of Black School Educators. So before we continue, I'd just like to invite Floydine, Charles Friedel, up to do a land acknowledgement and ancestral acknowledgement. Floydine?
Good evening, everybody.
It's a bit hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now? How's
That's a bit
that?
better. Yeah.
How's that?
That's good. Yeah.
Good evening. I'll be doing an Afrocentric land acknowledgement and the statement of truths. As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions towards decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. The Decade for People of African Descent, speaking truth to our experiences in Canada. This is our statement of truths. Our significant presence in Canada, documented since 1605, demonstrates that our contributions predate the country by over 150 years. Indeed, up until 1961, over half of all Black people in Canada were born on this land. Our ancestors were also part of the fabric of Canada. Learn of that. Our sweat, skills, experiences, and contributions taken and used without consent and for free built and shaped early Canada. Marie-Joseph Angelique has undoubtedly pushed and carved Canada into the powerful promise that it is today. Learn of that. People of African descent are resilient, brave, spiritual, and master builders who have been central to the campaign for equality and an equitable Canada. Our new goal, African Canadian truth-telling, starting today. Learn of this. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Thank you very much, Floydine. So I just wanted to just let everybody know about the format for tonight. So we're first going to introduce a representative from each party to talk about the party platform and to talk a little bit about their campaign. After that, we'll introduce our moderator, Jody Glean, to ask members of each party some questions. And following that, we will be hearing from the candidates from the different parties. They each have a couple of minutes to introduce themselves. Following that, we're going to have some breakout rooms. We'll have one breakout room per party. And so the non-designated party members will go into the breakout rooms to interact with the audience. The designated party representatives will have one person on stage, on the main stage, to answer questions from the audience. And so that's the basic format. So pardon the sunglasses, I have a bit of a health issue with my eye. I guess I wore my contacts a bit too long. But yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out. You know, this is an event that we did in 2019. And we're just really trying to create awareness of the different party platforms and give exposure to the different candidates who are running, you know, from the community. I think there's over 60 Black candidates from across the country. We've identified about 36 from Ontario, who where most of the candidates are from. But we also have a couple of candidates from out west as well. So we're just, you know, happy again to have so many folks here tonight. Not everybody who was on the flyer was able to make it. We have about close to half, so you know we're happy about that. So I'd like to start off by first having, again, hearing from the people from the different parties, party platforms. So I know that we have Mr. Cecil Peter is here. He's representing the NDP. So Cecil, you have 5 minutes to deliver the party platform, and then a couple minutes to speak about your campaign. Floydine is our timekeeper, and she will notify you at the 30-second mark. So please, everyone, please respect the time limits. We do have quite a number of people speaking tonight, and so really appreciate your cooperation with that. So Cecil, are you? I'll ask you to unmute and take it from there. If you could starting right now.
Good night, everyone. I want to thank you for putting this together with the other members of the community, and I think it's a very good service. So I'm going to just go into the platform, but I'm going to sort of channel it towards our community. So as many of you know, the NDP has been the party that has been most supportive of all the aspirations of the Black community. Now, when you look at our issues and you look at the party's response to our issues, you can see that there's no better party than the NDP. Now, so yeah, let's look at some of the things that we really support. Now, I'll start with the pandemic now, because I mean, it's happening right now, and it's very, very important that we engage our community about that. So the first thing we have to look at is the subsidies that are in place right now. If you look at what happened, Justin Trudeau started off with less money than people are getting right now. And that's because of our leader, Jasmeet Singh. He pushed Justin Trudeau to increase the amount. But now, when we form the government, he's going to go further. He's going to double the amount. Now, if you look at the other parties, what we are sensing is that the Liberal government will retreat from the position that they are in right now to appease big business. So there'll be a drop in whatever subsidy people are getting right now. They're going to reduce it. Now, as for the Conservatives, they're going to eliminate it completely. We would not have a subsidy. That is where they're going, because they're talking about cuts. And the first place they always start is the vulnerable. On the other hand, we will increase it, we'll double it. So only on that alone, I mean, that's enough for people to realize this is a party for now, right? For those years or months or decades, well, hopefully not decades, but in the meantime, while we are experiencing this pandemic, it's very important that we take care of people's economic issues. Like right now, we have people facing evictions, people having problems with foreclosures, and all sorts of things. Our party, that's the party that everyone could rely on to take care of business for them. We are for the people, not for big business alone, right? We are also for big business to a certain extent. We need big business to flourish so that we could have a good economy, but not at the expense of the poor. And when we're talking about taking those tax cuts they're talking about, these are taking money away from the vulnerable. For instance, when you give the business...
Please, can you please face the camera? You're getting the side of your head. Okay. Yeah. Please speak into the camera. Yeah.
Thank you. So when you take away $1 billion and you give it away as tax cuts, you're taking that away from somebody. It's not zero sum, right? You're taking that from somebody, and the people that you're taking it from are the poor people, the vulnerable. You're taking it away from healthcare, you're taking it away from education and all those things, right? So think about that. Who do you want to have the money now to take care of what's going on right now, take care of the economy, to make sure that everybody is able to survive? I mean, like experience a decent standard of living under all the conditions. There's no question. You're talking about the NDP. Now, if we delve into this a little more, we see that the NDP would look to help students, like university students will be getting subsidies, right through, because when you look at what's happening in our community right now, we see a lot of students are dropping out from school because they don't have the money to survive. Like the jobs are, during the pandemic, the jobs are declining. So people are not having the opportunities to get employment.
Okay,
so,
can you please wrap up?
Okay, so the long and short is NDP is for the people. We're for the people. And the other people, the other parties, they're for big business. And right now, we have to decide which section we have to give priority to, right? Is it the business or the people, right? Who is more vulnerable? Obviously, you're talking about NDP as the party that would be supportive of the people and also for business, but not only for business as the other parties. The other parties, they listen to the business. They
All right, you got to wrap up. You got to wrap up.
Okay, so at the end, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity. As for my candidacy, I am going there to make sure that our community gets part of the cake, because right now we're not getting part of the cake. And I'm telling you, as an MP in Parliament, Cecil Peter will always put the Black community first, and it would make sure that we're not in the bus riding at the back of the bus, but we are properly seated in the bus. That's my mission in there. My mission is all about making sure that they respect the decade of people, the United Nations decade for people of African descent, and to make sure that not in just words and celebration, but with hard, tangible things, with money.
Okay, all right, time. We got to cut you. Thanks, Cecil.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Cecil. Next, from the Liberal Party, we have Daniella Johnson, who is running in York Simcoe. So Daniella, we'll invite you to the stage and ask you to unmute. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Warren. So good evening, everyone. First, of course, I'd like to thank Warren and First Fridays and all the other individuals and organizations that were involved in bringing this event together this evening. I think we're in for really good discussion, and I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from everyone. As you heard, my name is Daniella Johnson, and I'm the Liberal candidate for York Simcoe. And I'd also like to acknowledge, before I get into our party platform, my other Liberal colleagues who are here with us. I know Michael Couteau, I saw you on, and I think Ariel Kayabaga, you're here as well. So just want to acknowledge my other candidate colleagues who are here. When it comes to the Liberal Party platform, our team is really focused on finishing the fight against COVID-19, making sure that we have better healthcare, affordable housing, and childcare, building a more resilient economy, and working to address, climate change now so we can ensure a better future for our children and our young people. And so, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has, the impact has been largely felt by the Black community, and this isn't something that we can ignore. So we must take this into account as we move forward. And so as a party, we've been focused on listening to community needs and working to bring in programs and policies that will not only help us to do this, but help in other areas such as, Black mental health, providing sustainable funding for our nonprofit organizations, and supporting Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs, and also investing in young people and students within the Black community. The Liberal Party is also committed to ending systemic racism and discrimination in all its forms. And we're proud of the plan that has been laid out for an equal Canada for everyone. And so when I look at what's been accomplished, I'm here because I know that there is so much more that we can do. And while the investments and commitments have been made, it's important that we don't just stop there. One of the highlights that I certainly want to draw on today is the fact that we have a slate of 20 Black candidates running across the country. This is the most that the Liberal Party has ever run. So it's something that we're certainly very proud of. And it's significant, especially as we all know the importance of having diverse representation, having more Black voices in Ottawa. And, one of the things I've said over the past months is, yes, look at the progress that our Liberal government has made when it comes to the Black community, but imagine what we could do if there were more of us. Again, focusing on those highlights, it was our Liberal government that, worked to have Emancipation Day formally recognized.
African descent.
And this is a huge advancement in terms of bringing awareness to Black history. Budget 2021 that was announced contains historic investments, including supporting the Black Canadian Communities Initiative and the Black Entrepreneurship Program. And then we also have the implementation of a disaggregated data action plan, which will fill data and knowledge gaps and bring fairness and inclusion considerations into decision making. So in terms of our party's platform, there's lots to be proud of, but of course, it doesn't end there. There's so much more that we can and will accomplish together. So, as we get into the discussion this evening, we'll certainly highlight more of that. And just to switch to the second part of the question in terms of myself and my campaign, this is my first time running. I'm running in New York Simcoe. I'm a 32-year-old wife, sister, soon to be mother. If we want to talk about campaigning while pregnant, I'm happy to dive into that as well. But I'm here because I want to continue to serve the community. I want to be an inspiration to young people, to young women in particular, and to the Black community. And I want to be a voice for those who haven't had the right representation. The last thing I'll say is that, I come from a background of working to serve different communities and have worked in both the public and nonprofit sectors to really, work to make a positive difference in the lives of others. And in York Simcoe, our campaign is going well, but we can always use more support, especially in these last few days that we have. And so if you are looking to support, my ask would be that you consider joining us on the ground, knocking doors in person if possible, or reaching out to our team to make phone calls from the comfort of your own home. And lastly, and this one's really important, and I'm sure you'll hear it from many of us as candidates, but considering a financial contribution, because really at the end of the day, any amount helps. And it's really important to, have us all together and have that support in order to move forward and to really, have that impact and get to where we need to be in Ottawa. So I'll leave it there, but thank you again for the opportunity to share more about our platform, and I'm looking forward to the discussion ahead.
Okay. Sorry, Daniella. You also get a couple minutes to talk about your own campaign, if you'd like to do that. Sorry, hold on. Let me just unmute you.
Sorry, everyone. I'm unmuted now. I wasn't able to. But no, in terms of my own campaign, that was really, just wanting to make that pitch for, ongoing support in those areas in terms of, volunteers on the ground, or, making those phone calls. And again, contributions to the campaign are also helpful. So, as I shared, the campaign's going well, and we're looking forward to getting out the vote over the next few days. As we know, there's advanced polling taking place now, and so just really encouraging folks to help and to support, and to get out and vote this weekend or on September 20th.
Okay, thanks so much, Daniella.
Thanks, Warren.
Okay, so next up from the Conservative Party, we have Mr. Garnett Jenius. Genius, and he is here from he's here from Saskatchewan. Welcome, Garnett. You can unmute.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm unmuted successfully. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be with you, and thank you to whoever helped by changing my screen name. I'm actually visiting my parents' house right now. We're over for dinner, and I've popped in for this event. It's great to be with you. So thank you for whoever corrected my name, and it's exciting to be with you in the midst of course, the International Decade for People of African Descent, in the midst of this critically important election. We have many very strong Black candidates running for us with the Conservative Party, and I know many of them are working hard to get out the vote as part of their advanced polls. I want to recognize, of course, probably best known as Dr. Leslyn Lewis, who had an incredibly strong performance in the Conservative leadership race. There's also Jermaine Chambers. I know we have Grace Adamu from Mississauga is on the call with me today, and Tunde Obasan, who's here in Alberta, and many other Black candidates. We have a detailed plan for economic recovery, for getting the country back on track, and for building inclusive economic growth. People can read that plan at conservative.ca/plan. I'd encourage you to have a look at it. You can look at specific issues that may interest you, conservative.ca/plan. It is quite detailed, and I'm going to hit on a few points in this introductory statement, but there's far more in it than I'll have a chance to get into. So a key part of it is transitioning our support to people, continuing to support people, but transitioning that support to promote jobs, employment, helping people get back to work, helping people start new businesses. So we have new measures to support business growth. We have new measures to support gig workers. A big part of that is the Canada Job Surge Plan. This is paying up to 50% of the salary of new hires for 6 months following the end of the wage subsidy. An investment accelerator, paying 5%, a 5% investment tax credit for capital investment made over the next 2 years, with a refundable portion in small business. Support to rebuilding Main Street and supporting other measures for hiring. This is what we need. We need an economic recovery plan. We need to help people get back to work, coming out of the challenging circumstances that we've just been through. And there, other issues. Our platform contains a commitment around working to democratize and expand access to procurement. I know a big ask from the Black community has been we need to do better on procurement, on inclusion of minority-owned businesses in government procurement. We are committed to tackling the issue of systemic racism across institutions, and to working with other political parties. We don't think this should be an issue that divides parties. We want to work together with other parties as we try to confront this. For those who are particularly struggling, I want to say that we put forward and passed a private member's bill creating a national recidivism framework. We have a plan to combat the opioid crisis by significantly investing in recovery, supporting recovery from the opioid crisis, recovery from mental health. Now, I know there are some people who are particularly following issues of immigration and credential recognition, and our party platform has a strong plan for expediting processing times. Many Canadians have faced significant delays in trying to sponsor family members to come to Canada. We have a plan for expediting processing time and also allowing people to correct minor errors in immigration applications without them needing to resubmit their entire application. Many new Canadians struggle with this problem of a lack of credential recognition. We're going to launch a national task force to support credential recognition and include as part of that task force studying the issue of pre-qualification. We want to put in place a system where new immigrants, before they even come to Canada, they can work to have their credentials recognized in advance, either through partnerships with Canadian institutions or through writing exams at a distance. This will allow that people to come to Canada with the certainty of knowing that they have that recognition. Our platform has a detailed section on page 111 about expanding partnerships with Africa, with African nations, full engagement with the African Continental Free Trade Area, working to expand security and economic partnerships with African nations. There is immense opportunity and geostrategic importance of increasing Canadian engagement with Africa, and that's something that is a priority for us. I saw someone was just asking the questions, are there any Black candidates running for the Conservative Party? I'm obviously not Black myself. Yes, we have many Black candidates running, and they're out doing Get Out the Vote. Dr. Leslyn Lewis, of course, Jermaine Chambers, I mentioned, Tunde Obasan, Grace Adamu is on this call. So yes, we do have many Black candidates. I look forward to working with them. In fact, the Conservative Party was the first party to elect a Black person to Parliament. Now, I think what we've seen over the last 6 years is, unfortunately, the Prime Minister hasn't always listened to those diverse voices in his caucus. We have the case of Selena Caesar-Chavannes. We have the case of Jody Wilson-Raybould. We have the cases of strong, in particular, women of color that have tried to bring forward ideas or concerns that they have and unfortunately have not been listened to. We need a government that both looks like Canada and is reflective of the interests and concerns of all Canadians. And hopefully after this election, we'll be able to deliver that government. And Warren, just a quick second on my own campaign, if that's all right. I'm running in the riding of Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, and getting a great response so far. I also serve as the Director for Cross-Cultural Engagement for the National Conservative Campaign. So I've been working and interacting with other candidates, and it's incredibly exciting to see the growth and engagement we're seeing. Really the significant growth we've had as a party in terms of engagement with the Black community, other minority communities, and we look forward to continuing that engagement. And as you can see from our plan, available at conservative.ca/plan, a lot of detailed issues in there around improving immigration, credential recognition, engaging with countries in Africa, building inclusive economic growth to benefit all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much, Garnett. Appreciate that. Next up, we have from the Green Party, Elizabeth Robertson, and also Adrian Curry. So I'd like to invite them both to the stage.
Adrian, do you want to go first, or?
Sure, I'll go first, and then you can bring up those 5 points you mentioned.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. First of all, everyone, thank you for the privilege of being here. This is a great event. It's really great to see Black people coming together in the way that we are, and just focusing on what we need to do in terms of getting our issues front and center. The world is changing fantastically. We have a very incredible leader for the Green Party of Canada, the first Black woman to lead a major political party. That is a significant achievement, and we're very proud of that, and we're going to build on that. And the first thing is to get her elected into the House of Commons, and we are almost there. So when it comes to our party's platform, we're the Green Party. So significantly, the focus that we have is mostly on the environment, because without a healthy environment, there's no future for any of us. It's that simple. We've experienced some serious weather patterns this year, some really high temperatures all across the country. Well, you know what? This is going to be the coldest summer of your life, because it's only going to get hotter from here on in. So unless we focus on the environment and solve climate change, there won't be much left for us to live for. In fact, we'll be fighting and struggling even more. So when it comes to the Green Party platform, we of course focus on our green future, and that includes energy and emissions, transition to the green economy. So that means no more pipelines, reduce the subsidies we give to oil companies unless they're going to transition to the green economy, or unless they're going to train their workers to work in clean tech, or if they're going to pay their workers to clean up the abandoned oil wells across the country, which are still spilling methane into the environment. Environmental justice is important. Conserving our natural resources, but then we also focus on other issues and homelessness crisis, because the Blacks and colored communities are disproportionately affected by that. Guaranteed livable income is important. Expanding universal programs such as post-secondary education, there's no reason why we have to pay tuition in terms of the education for young ones. Free post-secondary education is an investment to our young people. The cancellation of student debt is important because a lot of people from the Black community are struggling with high debt, not worried about how they're going to pay it off and then purchase a home and look after the family. A national daycare system so women and mothers can go back to work and go back to school to help them rejoin the labor force. National building retrofit program. So we will retrofit high rises all across the country. This will employ trade skill workers, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, you name it. A lot of them are Black youths who work in the trades. So our Black youths will benefit from this, men and women, and focus on the green economy and clean tech. Because if we're working on Canada needs to focus on the future and not the past. The past was resource extraction using our natural resources. That helped generate the wealth that we have now and that we can enjoy, but it's time to focus on the future. And the green economy and clean tech is the way to do that. And if we have good programs in our community colleges and our universities, a lot of Black youth, men and women will benefit from this. And I can continue, but I'm going to pass it over to my esteemed colleague. Elizabeth, it's all yours. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that. It kept popping up a message saying you cannot unmute. Hello, everyone. Ani. My name is Elizabeth Robertson. I am the Mississauga Lakeshore Green Party candidate. For myself, I would like to thank Adrian for talking about the platform, and I would like to get into some specifics. First, dealing with systemic racism at IRCC. Again, there are limited pathways for those coming from Caribbean countries. We are limited to small visas. When my father came in the 60s, his permanent residency application took 6 months. Now the times have expanded more. There is discrimination on French-speaking visas from France versus from Haiti. There is no labor market assessment for those coming from France, but if you apply for the program, you might not be deemed eligible. Second, the Safe Third Country Agreement the exceptions are not helpful, and that's why we have people who are crossing on the land border. Number two, the Greens will report on the United Nations Working Group and experts of people of African descent to its mission in Canada and ensure that we bring up those ideas. Number three, we need to dismantle systemic discrimination in the federal service. I am a former public servant. I work for the federal government, and I occurred microaggressions, discrimination, quite daily. So right now there is a federal case that is going on right now, and I don't know if the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party have mentioned what their plans are to dismantle discrimination in the federal service. Also, just a minor point, the discrimination and systemic racism in policing, there are some areas that need improvement. And then going to Adrian's last point, again, reinvesting in community and social services. For myself, most of the jobs I had were Tim Hortons or gas stations overnight. It was a small policy that allowed me to go to university, and that was a free tuition program. It was taken away after a year. So for us to be able to move ahead in the community, we have to be able to have programs and services that serve all of us. So I'm glad that the Greens are focusing on a guaranteed livable income. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Elizabeth and Adrian. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Ratib Anderson, who is the People's Party of Canada representative, and he is out of Humber River, Black Creek. Ratib, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Good evening. How's everybody doing? I just wanted to thank you for allowing me the time to represent the People's Party's platform, as well as my own campaign, and it will be quite brief. With respect to the People's Party platform, we are first and foremost putting Canadians first. How that correlates with the Black community is that we are Canadian first and Black ethnic minority in Canada. Moreover, another major portion of our platform that you've probably seen on the news has been the COVID-19 mandates and vaccines, especially how it affects not only Black people, but all Canadians, whether people of color or white. Our focus here is to ensure that we maintain the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in relation to people's personal choice and their bodies. We do not believe that we should mandate further lockdowns as it stifles the economy, and that we should focus on more vulnerable populations in order to foster a recovering economy. There's a myriad amount of issues that all Canadians face. However, with respect to the Black community, especially in my riding of Humber River Black Creek, when you take into account the income deficit in relation to the cost of living, I believe that the People's Party is the most optimal and best way to address this. We need to work upon lowering our immigration levels in order to better help and assist families in need here. Whatever the color may be, we need to assist Canadians first on both the micro socioeconomic economic level and a macroeconomic level. In looking upon that, we would, if you look upon the Black population in my riding in particular, which is about 16%, if you look on a national level, which is about 3.9%, we really need to, a unified economy and an economy that benefits all will inherently benefit Black people. We need further innovation. We need more supports for jobs, higher income. We need to lower the deficit that we currently have now of 2% to 0%, which is our plan to do in 2 years. Moreover, we need to foster further economic growth for all Canadians so that we can ensure that they have an actual means of living. I think other than that, how my personal campaign ties in really with the People's Party, it's generally focused upon cost of living, housing, and income, as well as people's personal choice as to whether or not they take a COVID vaccine and how they would have to be, that there should, technically that there shouldn't be any repercussions for such. And essentially for that, that would be all for me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ratib. All right, folks. So that's the party platform portion of the evening. Next, I'd like to invite our moderator to the stage. If you can please start your video. So Jody Mitchell is an award-winning anti-racism educator who dedicated her career to developing programming in the field of anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. She attained a Master's of Arts in Education Studies from Concordia. She's presently completing her PhD and degree in education at York U. And she brings more than 10 years experience in the field of equity, inclusion, and advancing education on anti-racism with organizations. Jody's currently holds the position of Director of Anti-Racism and Cultural Diversity Office at the University of Toronto. Welcome, Jody. If you can unmute.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much. Depending on where you may be joining us geographically across the country, maybe good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. Absolute pleasure and honor to be present with each of you. Please forgive any guest appearances from my little one. I've tried my best to park her downstairs. So we are going to learn just a little bit more about our candidates, a little bit more about the platform. Truly excited to learn from each of you, from each party, the steps, the actions, the initiatives that you plan on taking forward to really increase and advance and enhance the presence of Black community, the African diaspora across Canada. So I'm actually going to begin with some party-specific questions. Then I'm going to move into some general questions, and I'm going to welcome Floydine as our timekeeper and ensuring that we stay on track. Please keep in mind from notes I have, and I was told that each response should be within a 2-minute radius, okay? And then following that, I know there's some folks asking if there will be a Q&A with the candidates. My understanding, barring any changes, is that there will be. But this is going to happen as folks also enter into the breakout rooms to meet some of the non-designated folks who are representing respective parties, just so that you're aware. Okay, so we're going to roll into some party-related questions. I'm actually going to begin by alphabetical order by last names from folks who are present here. So I'm going to begin with Ratib Anderson, if that's okay, from the PPC.
Speaking.
Ratib, am I
No,
pronouncing your name right?
You said it right. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So let's go here. So your party has a strong stance on immigration, all right? And there's a high representation of folks from the Black community, African Canadian community, African diaspora, who are immigrants and newcomers here in Canada. So how does your party appeal to Black folks? How do your party appeal to persons of African descent, African Canadians, when on the surface it may seem, and some may argue, that the PPC is opposed to immigrants and newcomers being present here? What is specifically appealing about your party that should gain the Black vote, right? So wanting to sort of get your thoughts there on the stance around immigration newcomers, but then also generally, what is the appealing factor of the PPCs and why should it gain the Black vote? Please go right ahead.
Certainly. I think first and foremost, especially a little bit about myself. I am a descendant of Jamaican immigrants. My grandmother came here in 1970. She worked at a chocolate factory, sponsored my great uncles to come up here. My father came here when he was 5 years old. So in saying that, while we have a Jamaican heritage, I view myself as a Canadian first and foremost. And that is really where the PPC views all Canadians, whether Jamaican, whether Nigerian, all people from the Black diaspora of the continent, or European people as Canadian when they're in our country. And I think that truly does highlight, which is the ability to subvert our national identity and how detrimental the policies and legislation and discourse of multiculturalism is. The PPC it's not opposed to Canadians.
30 seconds.
Either those who immigrated here or those who are born here. Immigration and the current state of our economy correlate with each other. To ensure we survive the negative effects of our country has faced as a result of the pandemic, as well as the looming recession that are both cyclical in nature and a result of liberal spending and inflation, our party will address the myriad of issues, including lowering immigration levels to better assist Canadians here.
Thank you. Sorry, I just had get a little bit of permission there to unmute myself. Thank you so very much for your response. I'm actually going to now turn to the Green Party. Just want to confirm, because I know it sounds like there's two folks here. I have Adrian Curry and Elizabeth Robertson. Will both of you be answering this question here? Just Adrian? Okay, yes. Fantastic. Thank you so very much. So Adrian Curry, welcoming you into this space. So on your website, right, the Green Party of Canada states that it understands that systemic discrimination comes in many forms, right? Yet it seems as though Ms. Paul, a Black Jewish woman, is experiencing systemic discrimination from within her own party. Now, if your party wishes to embrace African Canadians, African diaspora, and also gather potential candidates, how can that occur when the Green Party seems to be embracing systemic discrimination against its own leader? So just inviting you to share some thoughts on that.
Thank you. First of all, our party is not embracing systemic racism. And so that is the first thing that has to be cleared up. There is systemic racism within our party, yes, definitely. But there's systemic racism in almost every organization in Canada and pretty much in the Western world. That is a product of colonialism and it's a product of white supremacy. But that is something that we are trying to deal with. The issues that occurred with our leader was because of this systemic racism and systemic sexism. So we are attempting to deal with that. You will notice that our party put forward a platform called Time to Run, which meant that we reached out to equity-seeking groups all across the country to make our party more diverse. And I'm ashamed to say this, but the fact of the matter is that in our last election, the 2019 election, it turns out that we were not very diverse as a party. In fact, when I got elected to federal council in May of 2020, I was the first Black man ever elected to federal council. Well, that has changed. Since then, There have been 2 other people of color elected to the federal council at the same time that I was. Since then, we have a leader who is a Black woman from Toronto. And even now, if you look at our slate of candidates across the country, we have a very diverse slate of candidates, including LGBT plus candidates. So we are working to dismantle the systemic racism in our system, and we're doing quite well at that. And we're going to continue to do that because Canada is a very diverse country. We are people from all over the country. I myself am an immigrant to Canada. I came from Jamaica when I was 6, and I grew up in this country, and I grew up with many people from all over the world. And it's time for the Green Party to reflect that, and we're working hard to do that. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so very much, Adrian, for your response. Please forgive the delay. There's just a little bit of unmuting with the microphone delays that's causing that there. Okay, thank you so much, Adrian. So now I'm going to invite Garnett into the space. Garnett, so going to begin with your question here. So your party's website arguably is very light on details regarding mental health. Studies have shown that African Canadians are reluctant to return to work after the pandemic. They are hesitant due to the fact that they constantly face racism and microaggressions at work, and which negatively affects their mental health. So if your party truly believes that mental health is health, as it states on your website, will you acknowledge racism as a mental health issue?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And I agree with you that when people are experiencing instances of racism, systemic racism or individual racism or both, that can obviously have a negative impact on their mental health. And part of recognizing that through this pandemic, there's been an increase in the mental health challenges that Canadians have faced. And there have been a variety of different causes and impacts of that. Some of it's maybe fear related to the pandemic. Some of it is isolation, and some of it is the exacerbation of some of the social division and some of the negative impacts, in particular on people from minority communities, Black community, other communities. Our party has a very strong plan on mental health, and this is one of the kind of 5 core points in our platform, securing mental health. It includes significant new funding on mental health, partnerships with provinces on delivering that effectively, creating a national 3-digit suicide prevention line, working to boost funding, to create incentives for employers to provide mental health coverage to their employees. So we're looking at a broad range of measures. And I know this is very close to our leader's heart, someone who served our country in uniform and has seen the impacts, in particular on our veterans associated with mental health challenges and the lack of recognition that many of those who have experienced mental health challenges have had to confront. So I'm very pleased that our platform includes this issue. It's one that's personal for many Canadians. And certainly, yes, we recognize many causes, including the racism people experience, can negatively contribute to their mental health.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much, Garnett, for your response. I'm now going to invite Daniella into the space. So Daniella, your government has officially recognized the International Decade for People of African Descent. Recently, your government has started various initiatives such as bank loans and financial support for Black community initiatives. Critics would argue that these initiatives perpetuate debt, lack equity, and run the danger of further marginalizing people of African descent. How would you respond to those critics of these liberal initiatives?
Right. First, Jody, thanks for the question. So our Liberal government is committed to supporting the success of Black entrepreneurs, in communities across the country. Personally, I've spent time reaching out to Black business owners in my own riding, and have spoken to many others as well. And as a party, we've heard from the community that many Black business owners continue to face systemic barriers to success. And that's why our government announced Canada's first ever Black entrepreneurship program to support Black entrepreneurs across the country to grow their businesses and to thrive with an investment of up to $400 million. This program offers loans from $10,000 to $250,000, and so far more than 30 projects across the country have been approved, bringing us to a total initial investment of around $60 million. So, through this program, we've provided a streamline for Black entrepreneurs to address the systemic barriers that they face and to grow their businesses. And this investment is an important example of our government's commitment to diversity and inclusion while working to address the systemic racism against Black Canadians. But with that said, I will continue to emphasize that, this is just a start, and it's important that we continue to do more to influence greater change and more supports to be offered in these areas. And the last thing, so I think I still have some more time to answer this question, is that we've also made commitments and have really quickly implemented
30 seconds.
philanthropic endowment fund, and this fund is going to be administered independently by Black Canadians and will help to support Black-led and Black-serving community organizations. And coming from the philanthropic nonprofit sector, this is extremely important, and I know the impact of investments such as these.
Thank you, Daniella, for your response. Inviting in Cecil Peters into the space. So Cecil, your party platform states that your party will invest heavily in programs and supports, and sorry, my apologies, Cecil's representing the NDP. So your party platform states that your party will invest heavily in programs and supports that improve quality of life and community well-being through an anti-racist, anti-oppression framework like education, housing, youth programs, and mental health supports. Can you provide practical examples of how your party would propose to do this through a framework that focuses on Black Canadians?
Okay, so thank you for the question. So when you look at how things are done today, in many cases, you have people coming into communities with great ideas. And after a while, those programs, they disappear. So our party would first of all make sure that when we have programs in our community, they are led by people from the community. So the ideas are ideas that are generated from inside based on lived experience. We're going to respect our community. The problems in Malvern may look similar to the problem in Jane and Finch, but the solutions may be different, right? So if you take the solutions that are indigenous to each community, you have a better possibility of a success. The other thing about our party, what is happening right now? Say, for example, you have a project that is proposed and it looks sound and everything, and it requires like 7 years of funding. What we find now is that the funding will be given like for 2 years or so, and it's precarious. So after 2 years, you're not sure what's going to happen, especially if the government changes, and so we left back at square one. Now,
30 seconds.
Yeah. So I think it's imperative that when we fund a project, we give the agency, once we find it's sustainable and everything, you give them the full funding, but under strict restrictions, like to make sure that you have accountability and everything like that. So when you look at our platform, is that we're going to trust the community with the solutions, and we're going to have the framework to make it work for them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cecil, for your responses. Thank you to all the candidates for sharing just even a little bit of a deeper insight into the initiatives, into the reflections on the questions that were posed. So I am mindful of time. And I know we have about 5 minutes left before we're going to move into our breakout room. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask some questions. And I will, what I will do is I'm going to ask one first question. I'm going to direct it to a particular candidate and then invite other candidates to respond as needed. Floydine and Warren, just keep me aligned in regards to time and let me know if we have time to move through each of the remaining questions as we go. Okay, so here's the question and then I'll direct it. So regarding the pandemic crisis, would your party continue with the same approach and options, that is lockdowns and vaccine passports, that the current government is using? What would your party continue? What would your party continue, or what would your party do differently? And so to begin this question, I'm actually going to bring Garnett into the space, if that's okay. I'm actually going to start with you, Garnett, here for this particular one from the Conservative Party.
And he has 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize if I was just turning around because my son had just popped in while you were asking the question, but it was about vaccines, mandatory vaccination, vaccine passports, correct?
What would your party do? What would your party continue to do in regards to the approach of the pandemic, or what would your party do differently?
Okay. Well, thank you. We have tried to be constructive throughout the pandemic in terms of offering suggestions. We've disagreed at certain points with the government's approach. We thought we needed stronger border measures earlier. Going forward now, we still need to work to widen the deployment of available testing. What we said with respect to vaccines is we do not support mandatory vaccination. We do encourage people to get vaccinated. So we support vaccination, but we believe it should be an individual choice. There are certain cases where measures have to be taken to protect the space, though. And that's why we believe an immediate test right before is a reasonable accommodation. So while the Liberals are proposing mandatory vaccinations for federal workers, as well as for those who take flights or board trains, we are giving people the option of having that immediate rapid test, daily rapid test, if it's a regular thing, as an alternative. So people still have that choice, but we do support vaccination. And with the existence of some breakout cases, we need a strong testing strategy alongside the vaccination strategy. Thanks.
Thank you, Garnett. Sorry about the delays with the mics, everyone. Elizabeth Robertson or Adrian Curry, I'm going to direct that same question to you, and then we'll move on to question 2, and I'll invite the other candidates for the following questions just for the sake of time. So what would your party continue to do in regard to the pandemic approach, or what would you do differently?
Thank you for the question. There's a lot we would do differently. First of all, more testing. Find out where the virus is, find out who has it, and then work accordingly. Secondly, mandatory lockdowns are necessary. This affects small businesses disproportionately, and marginalized communities are disproportionately affected. For example, they have nowhere to go for exercises because many people live in small apartments. Women are more affected or disproportionately affected. They're losing income.
30 seconds.
They have no access to daycare, and they're at risk of losing their jobs. We can't have one solution to fix all. More testing to find asymptomatic carriers will be more effective than vaccine passports. And then mandatory vaccination is against people's rights. It affects the most vulnerable, and people should have a choice in order to take an experimental vaccine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. So I was just informed that we're actually at time and we have to continue moving on with our agenda. But as mentioned, there's an opportunity for some Q&A, Warren and Floydine, if I'm not mistaken. And so with the remaining of the questions, I'll probably lump them in with the community questions as they come forward to allow for a fulsome and expansive discussion. But thank you so very much.
Sorry, Jody, you can give the other parties a chance to respond to that question, and then we'll wrap up. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, thank you so much for that, Warren. All right, so I'm going to invite Cecil into the space. So continuing with the question, what would you do differently? What would you continue to do in regard to the pandemic approach?
So the question that we have here is what we're going to try to save, money or life? I say we go for life. Okay, we take care of the vulnerable. We have this big billionaire who went into space and do somersaults, right? With all that money that he had, right? Because he's not paying taxes. So we have to protect our people. This subsidy must continue and we will double that, right? We're going to take care of the people first, so that they could make up their mind whether they feel to stay home or go to work. People shouldn't have
30
a choice.
seconds.
People should not have a choice between money and life, right? That should not be a choice. Okay, so basically, throughout the pandemic, NDP would keep the people safe. And that's how you're going to keep our economy safe, because if people are dying, you're cutting on consumption, right? If people don't have money, you're cutting on consumption, right? And business cannot thrive in an economy where consumption is not happening. You have to have consumers. That's the people. So we're going to protect the people. We're going to continue the subsidies. Actually, we're going to double the subsidies. And I want, when you see somebody, tell them that we are doubling the subsidies. They have something to lose. If they don't vote for NDP, they have something to lose. They're going to lose their subsidy. They're going to lose their survival.
Time.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecil. Daniella, forgive me. I'm actually going to come to you to the very end to provide a response to this particular question as you represent the Liberal Party. Okay, so I'm actually going to go to Ratib. Same question in regards to the approach to the pandemic. What will you continue and what will you do differently? What will your party do differently?
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Well, the People's Party of Canada aims to undo the negative repercussions on both the socioeconomic and the political level. We aim to focus on the mental health of all Canadians, including those Black Canadians in my riding and throughout the country, and ensure their rights and freedoms are upheld by the Charter. We will repeal vaccine mandates, vaccine passports, and regular testing for federal workers. Moreover, we will focus on protecting our citizens that are most vulnerable to the COVID-19 virus while protecting our rights as citizens to make informed decisions concerning their own health without being penalized by the state. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ratib, for your response. So Daniella, inviting you into the space as you represent the Liberal Party, going to ask if there's anything the Liberal Party should have done differently, or what would you continue to do, and what will you continue to do as it relates to the approach to the pandemic? For you.
Thank you. So yeah, first, I would just like to acknowledge that, we all know the past, 19 months hasn't been easy. And there's certainly been, challenges that we've all experienced as Canadians. But when it comes to what our Liberal government has done, when the pandemic began, we moved quickly to ensure that, the supports were available to help individuals continue to pay their bills and keep food on the table. We made sure that vaccines were available, effective, free vaccines were available for everyone. And, we've been continuing to protect the health and safety of Canadians by making sure that we're procuring enough vaccines going forward for booster shots and anything else, going forward. So, we've come a long way. There's more to do, but we are working towards finishing that fight against COVID-19 and really build back better for everybody. So we'll continue to, make that our focus.
Thank you. Thank you for your responses, candidates. I will now pass it back to Warren to continue us through the program. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Jody, for doing that, for moderating, and thank you to the candidates for doing a great job. I'd now like to invite Mr. Robert Small to the stage to introduce the candidates who were the non-designated candidates to tell us a bit about their campaigns. So Rob, over to you. I'll remove the other candidates.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for everybody for participating, as well as especially the candidates. And we're moving on to the next section of our presentation, which will allow 2.5 minutes for each candidate who is running to talk about their campaign and why they deserve our vote, or to be volunteers for their ridings and everything else that makes them deserving of our vote. And I'll be announcing these in alphabetical order. So and I'll be contacting you directly prior to the next person that's going to be talking, so you know you're going to be up next. But so the first person that I'd like to announce is Afama Liu, and running for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Hi, everyone. What if this election is not about politics? Who is a liberal, conservative, or moderate? What if it's not about government? Who is in power? Or what's their agenda? What if it's really about science? And what science says about our security, culture, and economics? The IPCC report, produced by a group of international scientists from the UN, calls for a climate emergency, where the impact of a runaway global warming may be irreversible if we don't meet certain targets to keep average temperature increase below 1.5 degrees Celsius. This warming of the Earth is caused by pollution from greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. And nature seems to be fighting back with effects like the pandemic, forest fires, and heat domes. The biggest pollutants are fossil fuel companies. Yet our government keeps subsidizing these filthy rich companies to the tune of billions of dollars per year, and investing in new infrastructure like the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which has a price tag of over $10 billion. Yes, the government is taking climate action, but while still spending on the culprits, that's effectively undermining their own efforts, which is like filling up a bathtub with the drain unblocked, right? Canada is the best country in the world, in my opinion, and I've been everywhere: Africa, Europe, Asia. But having missed all the previous targets set by the Paris Agreement, I'm not too confident in the status quo to get us there. There must be a better way. The Green Party has been calling for a transition to green economy for years, and everyone called them a one-issue party. Now I truly wish this was the only issue we talked about, or at least looking at every other issue through the prism of climate crisis.
20 seconds.
Regardless of your political affiliations or your sentiments towards the Green Party or its leadership, as the future of the world economy will be green, this is the moment where we have to decide if Canada will be a leader or follower. As for myself, I'm all about plans. As a former financial advisor, it was about financial plans. As a project manager, it was about project plans. Now, as an acquisition entrepreneur, it's about business plans. I see the Green Party as the most viable plan for climate action. I implore you as a Black community to show the rest of Canada the way and how we rally around our candidates to support in this climate action. And the climate action is green action. Thank you.
Yes, and now we would like to invite Gail Bannister from the NDP, who's been running for Brampton East.
Hello, thank you so much for the invitation to be here this evening. So as was mentioned, my name is Gail Bannister Clark, and I am running for Brampton East. I represent the NDP. And some interesting facts about me. I am a teacher. I've been a teacher for 15 years, and I've been living in Brampton for over 30 years. I actually taught in the riding that I am running in. Just trying to think what else I want to say about me. Our area in Brampton is highly racialized. When we look at stats in our schools, 80% of our students are racialized. There's 6% of Bramptonians who represent a Black population. And I wanted to put my name forward when I looked at the advocacy work that I did primarily last year as president of the Peel Teacher Local. Did a lot of advocacy work on behalf of teachers as well as workers facing the COVID-19 virus. And I really recognized how underrepresented and underserved Brampton was. Being the 9th largest city in this country, we only have one fully functional hospital. And I had to advocate working with parents and medical professionals here in Peel to get services that we needed to support workers through the pandemic, and recognized that no one was bringing our needs to the provincial government. No one had us on the map. And I believe that that is because of racism. It is because we are so highly racialized here in Brampton that we get ignored, and the funding does not flow, and our representation is not speaking up for us. So that is why I put my name forward. Thank you. And I plan to put us on the map, to draw attention to the inequities that we face here in Peel, especially amongst Black folks. If you followed us in the news, then you recognize the issue that we've had even at the Peel District School Board with anti-Black racism. Thank you.
The next candidate we'd like to hear from is Grace Adamu, who's running for the Conservative Party in the riding of Ontario, Mississauga, East Cooksville.
Yeah, Robert, I don't think Grace is here. And no. Grace, if you are here, we can't recognize you, as well as Afiz. So any candidates who are here, if your name is different in Zoom from your real name, please message Robert or myself. Otherwise, I think Gulid Arel is next.
Yeah.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? My name is Guled Aral. I'm running for the NDP here in Scarborough Southwest. I grew up here in Scarborough all my life. Growing up, I've kind of seen how Scarborough was neglected by various levels of governments, and frankly, by consecutive Liberal and Conservative governments. And growing up, I still tried my best just as a citizen to try to really work with community groups to try to make Scarborough a better place. Over the last decade, I was heavily involved in activism. I've helped save local bus routes from being cut. I've helped work with labor unions to try to expand free recreational programming for youth here in Scarborough. As a student in the university, I've worked with students all across the country to try to address affordability of post-secondary education and accessibility. So growing up, I've did my best to try to get results for Scarborough. And I think this is a very interesting and unique election for me because I'm up against Liberal Cabinet Minister Bill Blair. Bill Blair is somebody, and most of you probably know, is somebody who has contributed to a lot of harm for Black people here in Toronto in his time as police chief. He has defended and was a huge advocate for carding, which, targeted people that look like us just because of the color of our skin disproportionately, stopping us, having police stop us and invading our rights and our privacy just because they thought that we had challenged that we belonged as citizens in the city. And now he's a cabinet minister in Trudeau's government. And I think this is an example of how the Liberals sometimes talk the talk, but they don't actually walk the walk. We see Trudeau taking a knee for Black lives, but in his position as prime minister hasn't really done a lot to really tackle the systemic issues our communities has been facing. So this is why I decided to run with the New Democrats. The system that has been negatively impacting our communities is not an accident. It was built this way over hundreds of years.
30 seconds.
Of systemic racism. And it's not going to be piecemeal little policies here and there that's actually going to make a difference for our communities. It's substantial systemic change. So NDP has enormous amount of money that we're going to take from the rich to create strong social safety nets, to improve our healthcare, to improve our housing, and to improve and tackle climate change, and the issues that disproportionately affect our community. So thank you so much for your time, folks, and hopefully together we can actually make a difference.
And the next person that will be speaking is Huda McNeil, the NDP candidate for Ottawa South.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Huda McNeil, and I'm here in Ottawa South. It's my pleasure to connect with you all. So many leaders here that are stepping up to serve our great country. I come from the land of the Queen of Sheba, Yemeni and Ethiopian, and I spent 8 years in my youth in Egypt and moved to the great city of Ottawa, the capital city, some 30 years ago. Where I am working and raising my kids along with my husband, who's a pharmacist, a community pharmacist here. My previous work experience was with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. I was one of a handful of Black women that worked at the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. There was much systemic racism within that organization, as well as within the broader national security apparatus here. And this is something that has been determined as well and confirmed by review bodies. And I am currently the only person of diverse background that's speaking up on these issues and calling for changes. I joined the Black Class Action Lawsuit Group as an advisor maybe about 8 months ago, and it is the reason why I decided to run as a politician. I was looking for changes and was seeking those changes to be made by politicians across party lines, and I didn't see an interest in the issues that were being presented except with the NDP. I saw that with Jagmeet Singh, we were speaking about solutions to the problems, and not just the admission part was already established and done given his lived experience. The NDP is all about, social justice, and I'm very proud to be running with the NDP. Now, in terms of what needs to be done, what I'm committed to, given my experience, lived experience with systemic racism,
30 seconds.
Is to really change the Employment Equity Act, because if the government itself is discriminating against Black employees, it can't be an example and a role model for society. So the Liberals can throw all this money into programs, but they need to stop this seriously in terms of the discrimination that's happening within the public sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next, we would like to introduce Ms. Kathleen Johnson, who's representing the NDP in the riding of Calgary Heritage.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Johnson, and I'm a born and raised Calgarian, although I did live at Jane and Finch for many years. I am back home in Calgary, happy to be here. In my riding, marginalized and racialized people do not have any representation. It is 70% white community in my riding, and racialized people in my community do face some barriers in terms of how they're able to just function and be comfortable in our community. And so I am representing a change in that way, and also being female. So particularly interested in intersectionality in the ways that marginalized people are identifying different groups. Also, I am a diversity and inclusion specialist, and as a day job, I'm a cosmetics manager. I'm a single mother of 5, and I also have a special needs child with autism. So a lot of the issues that are on the table for Canadians and Black Canadians, I've lived them, and so I have a very intimate understanding of the issues and of what racialized people in my community are facing. I would like to see more accountability in the government, and I plan on being a candidate that is available to constituents and is seen and allows constituents to be heard.
And the next person up will be Miss Lis Pascal, Inamuku, and she is representing the NDP for the riding of Ottawa-Vanier.
Inamucho, by the way. I know it's a bit difficult for people to know how to pronounce it. So, hello everybody. I'm really happy to see so many Black, representation in different political parties in this federal election. It makes me very proud to be here among, wonderful women and men from the Black community. We're representing and we're making our community proud, no matter what our policies say or how our political parties are fighting, maybe. But just so you know, we're representing and we're making our community proud. So the reason why I joined the NDP, I was liberal for, since I joined. I mean, I was aware of the political, arena. I was liberal until I grew tired of the broken promises, empty promises, not seeing action on the ground. Very beautiful policy, very beautiful announcements, but seeing my people not getting what they're being promised. But keeping voting for them, I was like, well, we are being taken for granted here. We need to send a strong message. That's the reason why I joined. When I found better the NDP to fight for our rights. Because they say in Kirundi, you give yourselves your value. That's what I'm doing. So just to let you know, on September 2020, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced investments of up to nearly $221 million, including the $93 million over 4 years to launch Canada's first ever Black entrepreneurship program. I have yet to hear from Ottawa-Vanier or Ottawa entrepreneurs getting that money. Yet to hear from that. Nothing on the ground. Earlier this year, several Black organizations were denied funding through a program designed to help such groups, Black people, build capacity. But we're told the leadership wasn't sufficiently Black. Ask Operation Black Vote Share. The chair, Velma Morgan, she'll tell you about that. It's even in the news. That shocked me. I was like, and who that talked about the federal Black employees classical action suit. I'm also a member of that. And it really ça m'a révolté de voir que the liberal government is fighting us in court while for the anti-Black racism protest, Black Lives Matter, he went and kneel down. I was like, so you say something and you do something else. It's like the indigenous people fighting them, the survivors of residential schools in court while doing beautiful land acknowledgements and having a government general who's indigenous. We can't buy it anymore. Bob Marley used to say, I appreciate this legend. You can fool some people sometime, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. And this is why I joined the NDP, to fight for our rights, to fight for our dignity. You can find more on the platform, but this is what my campaign is all about, that. Thank you very much.
Next up, we would like to invite Mr. Michael Couteau, who is running for the Liberal Party for the riding of Don Valley East.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. And, I just want to say it's so wonderful to see everyone here this evening from different parts of the country. One thing for sure is that, political participation at this level is growing within the Black community, and that's a good thing. For far too long, we didn't see many faces in these political spaces. And I just want to say to everyone, regardless of your political party or even your political ideology or belief, it's a good thing that what you're doing. And I look forward, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, to serve with you in the next parliament. So congratulations to getting this far, and I wish everyone all the best. I think the tone in this country is changing. I think that the breakdown of just regular political discourse has broken into a lack of decency in political exchanges. I believe that regardless of anyone's political ideology, we have to create space where people can be listened to and heard. And I think because people feel like they're not being listened to today, we're seeing many different directions from many different groups, and a lot of anger. I represent a riding that has a very affluent part of the neighborhood, $1 million, $7-10 million homes, and I also represent parts of my riding that are Toronto community social housing and low income. And, you know, knocking on doors over the last few months and at least talking to people, you know, over the last few months and knocking on some doors has really shown that this pandemic has really challenged people economically, mentally, socially. Friends are fighting with each other about their views. People have lost their jobs. Food bank usage in my community has gone up 51%, and mental health challenges continue to grow. We need to get you know, as many people elected from our community so we can address those issues and we can position people for success in the future. So Warren introduced me to a gentleman a few years ago who's a minister out in, well, was a minister out in Nova Scotia, Tony Ince, and we created a parliamentary group for Black parliamentarians. So again, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, I hope that many of us will be able to join and work together and remove the partisanship from our challenges, because we have the biggest challenges, I think, of, you know, with our Indigenous brothers and sisters, one of the biggest challenges in this country. And we need to work together to overcome those challenges, regardless of political stripes. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. Keep up your hard work and get out there and knock on doors and connect with people. Thank you, Warren, for doing this. Thank you to the moderator. Thank you, Philodine. Thank you, Robert. This is a forum. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And we would like to introduce our next candidate, who is his name is Unblind Tibbin. He'll be running for the Green Party for the riding of Humber River Black Creek.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Robert, for your introduction. Thank you for the great work you've been doing with the Black History pictures and images that you've been doing over the course of the years. Thank you, Warren, for supporting the community with First Fridays. My name is Unblind Tibbin. I'm running in the riding of Humber River Black Creek. That is a riding that includes Jane and Finch and University Heights. I'm running because I realized that we need a change. Judy Seguro is a Liberal candidate. She's been there for over 20 years doing nothing. And we need something different to happen. The Green Party is pushing an agenda of free tuition, meaning that we're looking to invest in our youth. And this is critical. My riding includes over 7,000 students who are actually part of the riding and vote in the riding. I want to appeal to them that the Green Party is searching to invest in them to make sure their future is ascertained, not only by ascertaining free post-secondary education, but also in protecting the environment, reducing our economy to a carbon neutral economy by 2030 by eliminating greenhouse gases. This is key. We're also looking for that universal livable wage. This is a standard which has been achieved in many different countries in Europe and which we need to achieve in Canada. We need to make sure that people are not struggling and living from check to check, but they're able to afford their regular bills and have a quality of life that is equivalent to what it needs to be. The Green Party is key. I've been working with youth in our community in Jane and Finch and San Romanoway with the Achievers. I've been working, creating programs with THC for a very long time. And I think it's about time that we change. It's about time we also get food security. Black Creek Farm is in our neighborhood, and we have farmers that need to be supported. Food security is all about investing in local farmers, investing in community gardens, investing in youth learning so that they can be state of the art, and investing in youth earning green jobs in the future, because the future is about green collar jobs that will give you a livable wage. And we need to allow the youth to get into these studies, to invest in these youth by creating free avenues for them. Of course, the Green Party is pushing all of these, and it's pushing a transformation from society so we can get into a society that can be long lasting, and we can stop committing intergenerational genocide by
30 seconds.
This is a key thing which we're pushing. I'm pushing. I work with the youth on a daily basis, and I'd like to invite you to vote for Unblind Tibbin for Black Creek, Humber River Black Creek, because I really represent the people and I really represent the causes which are near and dear to our hearts. So I ask you to come out and vote. Be sure to vote Unblind Tibbin, and I'm sure that we will work together to create a better future for everybody.
Thank you, Unblind. And we are going to be introducing Miss Elizabeth Robertson, who's running for the Green Party of Mississauga Lakeshore. Thank you.
There you go. Oh, excellent. Finally, let me unmute. Hello, Ani. My name is Elizabeth Robertson. I am running as a Green Party candidate in Mississauga Lakeshore. For myself, I'm a married woman with 3 children. My family is Indigenous. I had my children on the reserve and I moved back to the city a couple of years ago due to lack of clean water, due to lack of education, and due to lack of housing. I'm currently a graduate student at York University. I'm taking 2 master's degrees, one in public policy, administration, and constitutional law. My second master's degree is a professional program through the Faculty of Education, which is the Masters of Community Engagement and Leadership. For myself, I've been extremely fortunate in Mississauga Lakeshore. The community, the Riding Association, everyone has been so welcoming to me. There is a true sense that the big parties are not providing real answers. And for me, what attracted to becoming a Green is Annamie Paul and her leadership. For herself, yes, she had to go through broken glass to get where she's gotten to. And I'm so happy and proud of her achievements during the debate. As a new Green, I am dedicated to protecting my children's future and the future of all residents in Mississauga Lakeshore. There are some glaring gaps within the NDP Conservative and Liberal platform that the Greens have been and will be able to. Again, as an opposition MP, there are so many things I can provide to my riding, including making amendments at the committee level to ensure that the residents of Mississauga Lakeshore are heard. Chi Miigwech, thank you again so much for giving me the time.
Okay, and if everybody can mute themselves outside of the designated speaker, we'd appreciate that. And next up, we're going to have Damien Halstead, who is running for the Conservative Party in Brampton, the riding of Brampton West.
Daddy, why do my wires matter? Because it looks like Medusa's head. Good, that's the whole point. They're in.
It doesn't appear that Damien is ready. Rob, is there anyone else that we missed?
No, I think you mean Jermaine Chambers for Brampton West.
Okay, is that because you're listed as Damien?
Yes, it's Jermaine.
Okay.
No, not me.
Okay, Jermaine. Okay. So Jermaine, if you can start your video and unmute. Okay. Jermaine, are you there? Jermaine, I see you unmuted. Are you available to speak or no?
I think there's some technical glitch with his stuff. That's why.
Okay. All right, we seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Hello?
Jermaine, if you can just unmute. Jermaine, yeah, you're unmuted now. Can you speak? Okay, so we seem to be having some problems. If maybe we can come back to Jermaine.
All right, please do. Okay.
Jermaine, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
we can hear you now.
Okay, awesome.
Can't see you, but we can hear you.
All right, awesome. Oh, you can't see me?
No.
Oh, not sure where that is. My camera is.
We can see your picture there. There you go. Now we can see you.
All right, awesome. Sorry, I just got off the road. You know, ended voting at 9 o'clock. So, we're trying to get out as much votes as we can. I wasn't hearing you very clearly while I was on the road. So I'm not sure exactly what the expectation is, but, just a little bit about what our plans are, what we're hoping to accomplish here is really job creation, as we have said, in terms of our priorities, is to get people working again, is to get paychecks flowing again, and it's also to really invest in the worker, to respect the workers' right to join a union if they so choose to make sure that workers' pensions are secure. We'd have seen what would have happened with the Sears situation, where people would have lost their pensions when that company closed. And we don't want to see that happening again. So we want to make sure that people's pensions are protected and people's pensions are secure. Right now, because of this pandemic, and even before, we realize as well a number of people are working in the gig economy. And we want to also make sure that we are looking out for those persons, whether you're an Uber driver, a Lyft driver, a skip the dishes delivery person, we want to be there to support you and to protect your interests as well. Secondly, we have seen a big concern with mental health and wellness, and we want to make a big investment in mental health and wellness to make sure that as a community, we have the mental health support that we need going forward, especially coming out of this pandemic. So, we have proposed 3 things for mental health, which is one, to invest in a national 3-digit number that individuals who need support can call to get mental health and wellness support, to give incentives to employers so that they can add mental health support to your health benefits, and as well as to increase the transfers to provinces. So
30 seconds.
30 seconds. In addition to the cost of living, we want to take a look at the cost of living. We have seen from the cost of housing to the cost of groceries. Being out of control, and therefore we proposal to get things going again for everyone across the country.
Okay, thanks, Jermaine. And last, we will be introducing Adrian Curry, who's from the Green Party, and he will be running in the riding of Davenport in Ontario.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. Again, it's great. So yes, I am the Green Party candidate for Davenport. We are focusing on the environment because it is significant. It's, as I said earlier, without the environment, we are nothing. And for the Green Party now, what's even more important for us is that there's no climate justice without social justice. So in terms of climate justice, we no more pipelines, focus on wind farms and solar farms, no more subsidies to oil companies unless they're going to retrain workers, focus on clean tech or focus on the green economy. We want a national building retrofit program across country. This will hire carpenters, plumbers, electricians, all kinds of people in the trades, and a lot of people from the Black community are in the trades. And then we want a national hydro corridor across the country. Right now, Quebec has electricity at 5 cents a kilowatt hour that we could use, that they would love to give to Ontario, and this would reduce our need on gas, on oil and other, and we can focus on green economy. Affordable housing is a must. It's mostly Black people and colored people who are affected by this. We should focus on 4 points in terms of more co-ops. We've stopped building co-ops, more land trusts so people can buy land and build whatever they need on it, more affordable housing units in new developments. We're not talking 5 or 10%, we should be doing 40, 45%. More apartment buildings. If you've noticed that developers are building only condos and not building apartment buildings, condominiums are going for 1 million and change. Apartment buildings are for the ordinary people, which is what we need. We've changed the zoning laws, because right now the zoning in Toronto and in Davenport, where I live, is mostly single family homes. People should be able to build 3, 4
seconds.
Units where 3 or 4 different families can live in a structure. And then Indigenous people should have control over their land. Simple as that. Tear up the Indian Act and give them control over their land. And then it's in terms of sustainable coverage for small businesses. Little Jamaica in my riding is heavily affected by that. More subsidies, more support for businesses in terms of wage subsidies, and then investments to move into sustainable economy, whether it's green tech or clean tech. There are very number of smart Black people out there who would love to join into this into the green economy. Thank you.
Hi, now we're just going to take a few questions from the chat, I believe, Warren.
Yeah, actually, no. Now we're going to open up the breakout rooms. So we have one room for party. So we'll ask the different candidates to go into those rooms. And then people can, if you have the latest version of Zoom, you can go into a breakout room. So there's the rooms, there's one room per party, except the PPC doesn't have a room. I'm not sure if Garnett, I'm not sure if you want a room or if you want to stay on the main stage, being the only candidate. Otherwise, the other parties have a room as well.
I see there is a room for me, so I'm happy to go into it. I'm not sure how the format works.
So yeah, so Garnett, the other option is to stay on the main stage and then answer some questions. So it's up to you if you want to stay on the main stage or go into a breakout room. What's your preference?
Well, whatever you think is best. Maybe, I mean, the main stage, I suppose.
Yeah, probably stay on the main stage since you're the only. Unless actually Jermaine. Yeah, so Jermaine is here. I'll put Jermaine in the conservative breakout room, and then I'll keep you on the main stage if that's okay. All right. So folks, again, if you have the latest version of Zoom, you should be able to click on breakout rooms and go into one of the rooms yourselves. I'll ask the candidates to do the same. And if you don't have the software, just please put in the chat which room you would like to go to, and we'll put you in as soon as we can. So once again, first I'd like to ask the candidates to go into their respective rooms, and then the audience members, please go into the room on your own, or otherwise, please put it in the chat. And I'll turn it back to Robert. He's going to manage taking some questions from the chat. So back to you, my man, Robert.
Okay. Full disclosure, this ball has been thrown to me like 20 seconds ago, right? So, so even though I'd like to, start off with someone who I respect in the community, and I just seen their question, I'll look further at some of the other questions. If anyone would like to DM me directly with your questions, I'll be able to facilitate that. So the first one would be towards the Conservative Party, and it's coming from Louis Marsh. And the question is the Conservative Party committed to ensuring that funds announced for the Black community by the Liberal Party will be delivered if the Conservatives win the election? And that would be directed to any Conservative candidate, but I believe.
Okay, so sorry, let me unmute the candidates.
Okay.
So I'll ask the candidates to.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. I was trying to make the unmute signal, and I'm not sure what that is yet, but thanks for. So in terms of the question, look, we are committed to continuing to support Black communities, and we'll work with the community to identify suggestions about whether those existing programs are working well, or whether there's tweaks or improvements that can be made. We're committed to engaging with the community through that process. Certainly, I think anytime a new government comes in, it's responsible to not just change everything, but to see what's working well and what needs to be changed, but also to be willing to adjust where the feedback of the community is that. But we'll certainly be engaging with the community throughout the process and ensuring that what we're doing aligns with the best interest of the community.
Okay, Robert, back to you.
Okay. Yes, and while I'm waiting for another question, yeah, Garnett, I guess another obvious question would be, what was the Conservative Party's reasoning to have you be a represent the Black candidates and speak on their behalf rather than they speak on their own behalf? What was the reasoning that came to that conclusion within your party?
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't be muting myself in between questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll ask all the candidates to just stay unmuted.
Okay, sounds great. So I understand the invitation was sent to a number of different candidates. I received the invitation. I know some of our Black candidates received the invitation as well. Today's advanced poll day, and many of them are new candidates. They're out connecting with their constituents for the first time, and that's why Jermaine Chambers is here. Came in partway through. Great to have him there. We have a lot of strong Black candidates. We want them to win, and they're out getting out the vote in their own ridings as new candidates doing that. So if one of them was available tonight, for the full time, I would have been very happy to have them take on the role. But I want to help enable them to be where they need to be in terms of the needs of the local campaign, and I'm happy to share about the platform on behalf of the party.
Okay, thank you, Garnett. Yeah, this other question comes from GR with keep the main things, okay. And his question was basically, our concern is more so that, and this will be aimed to the PPC as well as the Green Party. His concern was that the UN International Decade for People of African Descent has received funding from the local government. If you were to win, if each of your party were to win, would they continue that funding for such a needed initiative? And I'll ask Ratib to go first.
Okay, let's see. Perfect. So you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So the People's Party of Canada is really focused on the issues of all Canadians, including those that are Black Canadians. While we see we are not a monolithic group, we vary greatly from diasporic region and history, religions, wealth, and socio-political ideas. We are looking to assist those in need based upon equity and economic opportunity and putting Canadians first. So with respects to any form of a international or UN funding or drives that would be going on, the PPC endeavors to help domestic Black Canadians, entrepreneurs first. And this will ensure that we are able to keep our dollars circulating in our own community and provide a better well-being for our own people here.
Okay, and Adrian?
Definitely. Will we continue the funding for this project? Definitely. I mean, why should this be a one-time thing? I mean, that's the problem with liberal pronouncements. They throw money at a problem thinking that this will solve it, but it doesn't. It takes sustained attention, focused on the issue, and to focus on the people and not the dollars spent. So there's so much more that the federal government can do. We can focus on social programs, look at the root causes of a problem, look at education look at women's issues when it comes to the wages that women are paid. They're paying less than men. When it comes to national daycare, women need to be able to look after their families and their children so they can work, so they can go to school. There's for students, for Black students, as we heard, student debt is a big deal. Access to education is a big deal. So therefore we should offer our education as an investment into our Black communities. So no tuition fees, no loans, give them grants, get them educated, and they can support the community and support themselves.
Okay. And Danielle, this is primarily a question posed towards yourself, and then I'll ask the others. The pandemic has exposed and exacerbated the economic issues that specifically affect the African Canadian community. What policies or proposals would your party offer that would increase the likelihood of home ownership, the general ability of African Canadians to generate wealth and provide economic stability for those who are wary about losing their jobs during and after this pandemic.
Sorry, apologies for the delay. I just had to get unmuted there. So no, that's a great question. And I mean, in terms of addressing, housing affordability as a whole, that's something that will certainly, benefit the Black community. For one, the Liberal Party is introducing a new rent-to-own program so we can help renters become homeowners. And then, we're looking at how we're able to help Canadians save, especially young people or individuals who, are looking to get into the housing market, looking at helping save up to $40,000 to purchase your first home. And, that includes having access to a tax-free first home savings account. So those are a couple of the initiatives that will certainly help, but also, building more affordable housing, and to do this and increase housing availability by speeding up housing construction, making sure that, we're looking at converting empty office spaces into housing, and, helping, multiple generation families being able to renovate their homes so they can live together. So again, a few other pieces, and then overall too, looking at, how do we protect home buyers. And so our Liberal government, our Liberal Party will be introducing a Bill of Rights that will ban blind bidding, establish a legal right to home inspections and stop reno evictions, where people are being pushed out of, affordable housing or the housing because of, supposed renovations. So at the end of the day, really wanting to ensure transparency throughout the process. So there are quite a few things that are being implemented that will certainly benefit, our Black community as well, and just, really work to address the housing crisis that we're currently in.
Okay, Garnett, would you be able to address that as well? If you want me to rephrase the question, I'll.
No, it's about the housing situation. And look, I mean, with great respect for Ms. Johnson, I know she's not currently an MP, so she doesn't bear responsibility for this, but the Liberal government has really failed to act in the last 6 years when it comes to the escalating housing crisis. And I think at some point, governments have to be measured in terms of their results, their ability to deliver. Conservatives started this campaign with a very strong and bold policy to improve housing affordability. And a big part of that was recognizing the role of supply. We've got more and more people that want to live in a supply of housing that just hasn't grown fast enough. So obviously the prices are going to go up. And we do have policies around reforming the stress test, improving people's ability to access mortgages. But you have to move on the supply piece, or we're just going to continue to see prices escalate, regardless of more people qualifying. It's a question of having enough homes. So we've released a detailed plan on how to get supply moving, opening up federal lands, incentivizing increases in density, and linking that to other forms of funding to municipalities, creating incentives for the construction of new rental housing. We have a comprehensive plan to build 1 million new housing units, and to do that with the private sector, to shift the incentives, make available federal lands. This is something that we have needed to do for a long time. We've also announced, aside from the supply issue, we have announced that we would put in place a moratorium on non-resident foreign buyers, really to prevent the kind of concerns we have of that driving up housing prices as well. So we need action on affordability across the spectrum, especially on housing. And I'm proud of our plan that responds to what we've seen up till now, which has been inaction.
And Ratib, can you answer that question with respect to home ownership, generating wealth, and stabilizing jobs?
Of course, not a problem, especially with the perspective of the People's Party of Canada. We focus on equity and economic opportunity for all Canadians, including Black Canadians, and this will ensure that we foster innovation, entrepreneurialism, and not be stifled by politics and empty promises. We are not going to simply inject more cash flow into the economy and create hyperinflation in which our Canadian pensions will not be able to keep up with in the future. Our party aims to assist Canadians in a base of equity and lowering inflation and the national debt, and thus lowering the cost of living. The national debt right now is actually at $70,000 per Canadian, all across the board. When we lower this debt, we'll be able to provide Canadians and Black people with the ability to earn more income, buy gainful employment, retain business opportunities, actually have entrepreneurial programs that they can access without credit.
It has more of
thus
Derek Stoll on piano and
oh, sorry, Steve, did I break up there?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Essentially that all ties into inflation, the cost of living in the economy. If we lower inflation, we lower the cost of living, we enable people to purchase more homes, rent will be cheaper. Right now, you're looking at people living in a deficit of $500 to $1,000 just from income to cost. We need more equity and more opportunity and a better economy, and especially not more lockdowns to bog down our society.
Okay. And Adrian, if you could just provide an answer for that in a few minutes, in 2 minutes.
Could you repeat the question? What's the question?
Yeah, the question was basically that what policies, initiatives, or would your party propose that would actually encourage home ownership within the Black community, as well as job stability?
Okay. Good question. Well, the first thing is that
if we just focus on job stability.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, job stability, the first thing is universal basic income, because when people are down, they're suffering, and all they need is a little bit of help. We know that poverty leads to homelessness. So if people can afford to pay their rent, pay their mortgage, look after the family, then that improves their job stability, because then they can go to work and can keep a job and maintain a job. Then we talked about national programs to work on the green economy. So, if you're focused on clean tech and green tech, for example, the national retrofitting of high rises, as I said, that's going to employ people in the trades all over the country. So we're talking about young Black men and women coming out of colleges. That is a huge step in terms of getting people employed and keeping them in the economy. Second, reducing student debt, eliminating student tuition, because there are a lot of Black kids in our communities that would love to go to school, who can't afford to go to school, and if they can't get a good education, then you're going to reduce their job aspect. So if high school people can get as post-secondary education, no matter what it's university, if they want to go to law school, if they want to become an engineer, or if they want to become a plumber or electrician, get them into schools, get them into jobs, get them into these internships, and then they're going to have more job stability and look after their families.
Okay, before I go on to the other questions, I'm going to just, this question is posed directly to Ratib Anderson. Ratib, are you ready? Yeah, a question that's been posed within some Facebook groups regarding your candidacy, as well as other blacks who are candidates in the PVC party. Your leader has said, and your party has been accused of racism on different fronts in different times. So how do you rationalize being a Black candidate within the PVC party? And if you can address these issues that the Black community has concerns about.
Of course. I believe that actually, not even I believe, if you look at the history of things, you can see throughout all political parties that there will always be scandals, there will always be sensationalism in the media, and you'll also see that if there's an opposing party attacking one, whether it was Trudeau in blackface, you had Jean Chrétien choking anti-poverty protesters. There's always issues in which people could learn from and grow from. I believe the two most prominent issues with respects to Mr. Bernier is the comment he made about Jagmeet Singh, as well as the remark he made towards one Liberal MP, fellow Black lady, in which she said she focused on policies regarding her skin color and not benefiting all Canadians. Now, how do I believe personally, as a libertarian and a conservative, that the People's Party of Canada is what's best and most optimal for the country and Black people included. The country was founded on British supremacy, imperialism. It was founded on the destruction of Indigenous people and the settler communities coming in and taking this land. These are things that we acknowledge and have to learn from. There is always room to grow. Nobody's perfect, but this party is what Canadians need to ensure their rights and ensure that they have a Canada that is worth living in the future.
And Ms. Johnson, Danielle, if I can pose this question directly towards you. And the question is, and it's a question posed by Eka Washington, and generally, you know, the question that she has is stated, I have a question. Who will be leading this community engagement initiatives to quote unquote engage the community? What approaches will you be using to engage the community, especially with young Black communities? This is in regards to conservatives continuing with Black socio and economic funding to support the community. And I think that and she can correct me if I'm wrong, you know, but I assume that this is relating to representation. The one thing there's been many initiatives from the Liberal government from the federal level with regard to the International Decade for People of African Descent and other initiatives, but it seems to have faltered where it comes to representing the communities, the Black community specifically, even such flubs as questioning like Black community organizations that have been there for like 25 and 30 years in the community and questioning whether or not they were a Black, sending a letter out to them if they were actually a Black community, which was deemed as an insult. So going forward, like how is your party proposed to fix these issues that have occurred, as well as to ensure that they never have again, and have Black people at the table directly in the decision-making process?
Right. So first, I'll start off with that, right? Because that's so important. Having representation, having our voices present at decision-making tables, and there is that need for representation at all levels of government, and whether it's having MPs representation in cabinets. We're looking at staffers and making sure that there's Black representation, diverse representation at that level as well, and within the public service. And as a Liberal party, we've been actively listening to communities, actively engaging and outreaching to communities in the Black community in particular to make sure that we're, getting and creating opportunities and spaces for those discussions. And just all around, we just need to see more representation and make sure that we're creating spaces for those voices to be heard and to be involved in those decision-making tables. So, when I look at this evening and the event that we're having, that's why discussions and forums like this are so important, and we need to continue to create these spaces, and for our party, we'll certainly be focused on that going forward, so that we have we have the right representation and that we have our voices being heard, so we can act on that.
Okay. All right, maybe we can, Warren, we can take some questions directly from the audience, because I see that some people have their hand up, and I was told that Danielle Dowdy had her hand up.
Yeah, so actually, we're, just out of respect to the candidates, we told them from 7:30 till 9:30. Mm-hmm. So we just want to respect their time. If any of the candidates, need to go now, that's fine. But if they want to stick around for some more questions, please feel free to do so. I know that I know you're in the middle of the campaigns and your time is tight. So if you can't stick around, we understand. But if you are willing to, then yeah, we can take some more questions. Is there anyone on the main stage who wants to bounce right now, or?
Warren, can I just ask how much longer do you think? Maybe another 10, 15 minutes, or just
Yeah,
so
let's say another 15 minutes max.
Okay, sure, yeah, just so I can
Okay.
send some messages. Yeah,
Yeah, 15 minutes. That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, I will jump in. I do apologize. We do have a couple more calls, so I will have to go. I'll stick around for about 5 minutes, but then I will have to jump off. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
So Robert, back to you.
Yeah, okay. All right, so this question is coming from Terrence Richards. And Terrence Richards is asking, question is, for proper comparison, what is the number or percentages of candidates of African descent representing in the political parties running in this pivotal federal election? And just as an added component to that, you know, what I've witnessed in some of the federal parties is that there's a very lack of consistency, that there might be a Black candidate running one year, but then they won't run the next federal election. So can you address the percentages and what you're attempting to do to recruit more Blacks within your parties? And we can start with Garnett.
Thank you for the question, but I'm sorry, I do not know that figure offhand. And I wouldn't necessarily want to presume in every case, but I know of many strong Black candidates we have running. I've mentioned some of them, but I don't know the percentage.
I believe there are 14 conservative Black candidates.
That may well be true. But you know more than me if that's the case there. So, and certainly we've been working to engage as many as possible. We've had a lot of growth. I will say that in the last election, we were not good enough, and there's been a lot of growth since the last election in terms of numbers. So many new candidates stepping forward, which I'm very pleased to see.
Okay, Ratib, would you be able to answer that question yourself?
Yeah, no problem. While I wouldn't be able to address how many Black candidates the People's Party has, it really boils down to our core ideology of putting merit and worth before skin color, race, identity. The People's Party has candidates of all ethnicities, all genders. However, we do not focus on this as a primary tool to attract our constituents. Canada is diverse, we know that, but again, we always harken back to Canadian first.
Okay, and Daniella?
Yeah, no, thanks for this question. And I'm happy that I'll be able to actually speak on this question before I have to jump off. So, if we look at, the Black community, we're 3.5% of the population. As I mentioned earlier, the Liberal Party has 20 candidates, a slate of 20 candidates that are running. So that's 6%. So already, we've made significant improvements. And I would even just share, a little bit about my journey and how I got here, as the candidate for York Simcoe. I ran in the nomination for Brampton Centre. I wasn't successful in the nomination. We had a really good run. And the party, has been supportive along the way. And that's how I'm here today as a candidate for York Simcoe. There's dedicated staff support. There's, checking in to see, how I'm doing, how my family's doing. And, really just support from the party to make sure that, along this campaign, any support that's needed is there. And that's what's happening for a lot of, other candidates, and in particular, the Black candidates. So, I feel, happy and supported knowing that. And I just wanted to share a little bit about that, because I do think that's important to note, that, I'm not just here because, for whatever reason, I'm here because, we're working hard and there is that support from the party. So again, a slate of 20 candidates, men and women, Black candidates that are running for the Liberal Party. So, really proud to see that in this campaign. But unfortunately, I do have to jump off, but I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. So thanks to everybody. And of course, thanks to all the candidates. It really is great to see all of us across all parties who are doing this work and who are doing what we can to really support the Black community. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. I just wanted to say, on behalf of the team, thank you for coming out. And just before we continue, I just really want to urge the audience to, look to, support these candidates in whatever way you can. And, they need our support, regardless of the party, whether it's financial or, putting your time in to help volunteer. But, just please, in addition to voting, if you can see about supporting them in any way possible. Back to you, Robert.
Okay, thank you. And Adrian, if you can answer this question as well with respect to the representation of Blacks within your party.
Sorry, could you repeat the whole question?
Yeah. It's how would the Green Party encourage Blacks to be candidates, two, be viable candidates consecutively, and three, volunteer and being a part of forming the policies that the Green Party creates?
Well, first of all, with the introduction of our new leader, a Black woman, she started a Time to Run campaign, and that was to actively recruit people of color and equity-seeking candidates all across the country, and we've done that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to complete a full slate because of the snap election, the untimely called election, but we have a significantly more increased diversity within our candidates. How would we find viable candidates? Well, you have to educate them and mentor them and give them the opportunity to lead. So we look to members within our communities across Canada to nominate candidates who they think would be good candidates, because a lot of people don't see themselves as candidate, even though they're good leaders within their community. A lot of women don't see themselves as candidate because it's because of childcare responsibilities, or just the fact that they don't see themselves as in positions of power. So right now we have a Black woman leading the Green Party of Canada. That is the biggest incentive to get more viable candidates to join the Green Party, or any party for that matter. And then in terms of volunteers, what was the question? How to attract volunteers or how to keep them?
Yeah, how to attract volunteers to a Black community, to the Green Party too. Why would I want to go specifically to the Green Party if I'm a Black individual? And also, I pose that question to Ratib too, right? So,
sure. Well, why would they want to come to the Green Party? Well, first of all, they would see themselves being represented in myself and with our leader and many other women and persons of color within our party. They would see themselves represented as LGBTQ plus members, as new Canadians who were formerly immigrants. Why would they choose the Green Party? Because of our policies, because we focus on the environment, because as I said, without an environment, we don't have anything to live for. We're toast if we continue with our global warming in the next few years. And then you have to encourage them to join the Green Party and to volunteer by looking after volunteers, by making sure they're comfortable, by giving them support and mentorship opportunities. There's a lot we can do to keep volunteers and make them want to be part of the Green Party.
Okay, well, thank you, Adrian.
It's 9:43, just checking in on the time.
We'll go till 10:50, so 7 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
9:50. 9:50.
Yeah.
I will give you a 2-minute warning.
Yeah. Hey, Black people love the after party, right? So that's what things really get good.
Yeah, some of us have to go.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'll play the music right now. No. Well, with regard to that, the one thing I'd like to ensure that we talk about is the elephant in the room, and that's the vaccine as well as the present pandemic that is occurring, right? Which we shouldn't be amiss in talking about. So Ratib, the one thing I'd like to ask you this question, and possibly go to Adrian as well as Garnett after this, and I'll ask Warren directly if we can accept some of the hands that are available up in the chat.
Well, we got suppose 6 minutes left. So
okay, well 6. So we'll just end on this question, unfortunately, right? So Ratib and the others, what I would like to ask you is that there's a process that's been happening at the provincial and national level with respect to addressing the pandemic as it stands right now. What have the Liberals been doing that you would continue? What would you change? Are you for vaccination? And how would you and if you can remember this convoluted, this long question, what is it that, how would you encourage members of the Black community or discourage them with regarding to the vaccination process?
Okay, not a problem. I think that's really at the forefront of the People's Party's main platform. We're upholding the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We're upholding freedom of thought, freedom of expression. Even here in Ontario, on a provincial level, you do have Health and Privacy Acts in which you legally do not have to disclose